Oh, my gosh, that is exciting.
Yes.
Well, you're going to be back here on Saturday, correct? Sunday, correct, to give us more?
It depends on whether I got more to give. I should have, and the only thing I can do is kind of wait and see now. Usually the way I do this is I give the intro or whatever, my little update, and then I let people that, after somebody else runs a portion of the show, whoever that might be. Last time I believe Terry had an awesome presentation. I don't know who else is on today. But, I'll stick around and see if if somebody has questions that I need to answer, I'll be here.
Okay, that's wonderful. I don't see any sign. No one said there's any questions in the queue just yet, but they may come in. Thank you, Drake. Again, to hear more from Drake, please tune in to Freedomizer Radio this Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Our featured guest today is Dr. Will Spencer. Dr. Spencer is an author, researcher, lecturer, as well as the resident naturopath at bodyelectrician.com. His work extends into many areas regarding human and environmental health. Raised in a Minnesota farming community, Will saw firsthand the carnage that today's agribusiness is causing. Will speaks at seminars across the country on many topics from sustainable farming practices to human health, including diet, spirituality, and even consciousness. Over the years, Dr. Spencer has worked with many organizations, including the Organic Consumers Association, the Institute for Responsible Technology, and the Western A. Price Foundation. Will is also, we're really proud to say, a valued member of the Freedom Reigns crew. His website is bodyelectrician.com. Welcome, Dr. Spencer. Are you there?
Good morning.
Hi.
Hello.
It's good to have you on.
Well, it's good to be here again.
Well, I understand you have some information to share with people on the situation with the bee colony collapse.
Well, yeah, as everyone should know, anyhow, there's some major issues with the honeybees. Several different contributing factors. Not only the chemicals, pesticides, the industrial agriculture as a whole, and the electrical magnetic pollution in the air. Now there's an article that just came out in the Ecologist just a couple days ago. The title of it is "Pesticides Linked to Honeybee Decline." In Europe, they finally made the connection directly that the pesticides that are in the plants, bred, genetically modified into the plant, they're affecting the health of the bees. So
wow.
That's extremely good news.
It's good news?
Absolutely, because they're finally identifying out in public that conventional agriculture is one of the contributing factors to the bee deaths and the bee disappearance.
Well, for a while I was following the corn ethanol story because I live in Ohio, which is corn land, and they use atrazine. They use all kinds of nasty chemicals when they're growing this corn. Much of it's used for corn ethanol. It's GMO corn grown for corn ethanol. Doesn't that have a contributing factor? I kind of always thought it might.
I say it does.
Of course, they deny it, right?
Well, they meaning the industrialists, but one advantage those in Europe have, there's actually some real science that gets published once in a while, where here in this country the real science is totally underground because people like to breathe air.
Yeah.
So the corn ethanol, actually, the plants grown for industrial purposes are much more harmful than the food crops. Because if you'll do any research, like with the EPA tolerances, the pesticides are allowed through the labeling of inert ingredients to be much more toxic than food chain used pesticides. So the chemicals and pesticides they're using on the products for the industrial oils, ethanol, cotton for clothing, which is a non-food item, and so forth, are much more toxic chemical-wise, because just looking at the word inert ingredient on the label, there is up in excess of 30 different thousand potential chemical compounds that can be used and okayed through the EPA to be used as and only labeled as inert ingredients. Where food-produced crops with their pesticides, the list is a little bit less. Not much, but a little bit less. So they can use more toxins on non-food crops than food crops.
Anita?
Yes.
Will?
Yeah.
I'm one thing I keep seeing people kind of ignore the thing about the bees because they still got flowers and this sort of thing, and I have not seen a lot of people understand how important the stupid little honeybee really is to our being able to eat.
I agree with that.
No, it's just something it just popped in my mind, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but my goodness. I saw a documentary on TV that showed Chinese and Japanese in the mountains actually taking swabs and having to hand pollinate so they'd have fruit.
Absolutely. Wow. In today's world, over 70% of the food that you get in the supermarket, and that is organic or conventional, is pollinated with the honeybees. And they move them around the country in a systematic way, following different the crops that pollinate. So, like right now, they're moving them on the West Coast. They're moving the bees right now because they just got done with the nut trees. In California, they're heading up the coast towards Washington, the Yakima Valley, and up that way because we have apples, pears, and cherries starting to blossom. Same way on the East Coast. They move the honeybees around because there's significant losses. The amount of hives is like 90% less than 40 years ago, and they are pollinating incredibly amount more. So they're really working the bananas out of these bees for one thing. So they're not letting them live their natural cycle. Plus the environment they work in is extremely toxic and really not conducive for life, really, because there's just so many chemicals and pesticides.
Well, my question is, you're talking 70% of our food would suddenly disappear right along with the honeybees?
I wouldn't say suddenly, but because there are some native pollinators, there are other insects that do pollinate, but you're looking at a significant reduction in quantity in the food chain at present, because most people do not raise their own. The other thing is everything is shipped so far, so it's a compounding effect. It might not be noticeable immediately, but because the food chain has storage along the way, but definitely through a season or two, there would be a dramatic decrease in quantity of food available.
So in other words, you'd be talking about extraordinary prices at the grocery.
Well, ultimately, yeah, because it's a demand and what's the word? Supply and demand issue. Then when it gets to there, right now we don't have that issue for the most part.
How long do we have, do you think, in terms of starting to see problems?
That depends on the loss of the honeybees. It's been continually 30 to 40% losses across the board. These are general statements now. These are not. These are just general statements that I've heard through the USDA and beekeeping associations that I watch. So, it would take a little bit of time, but the losses will definitely be seen.
So you're saying that it takes a period of years, but eventually we got a serious problem looking at us if we don't fix this.
eventually we have a serious problem. We have a serious problem today. I mean, I've been studying this and watching this for years because I lost my first hive started dying when I was farming back in 2006. I lost my hives and went to work immediately trying to figure out what the world's going on. There's no reason for my bees to die. I was in a totally biodynamic environment on the piece of land. But within a mile of where the hives were, there was genetically modified crops. There was conventionally raised turkeys in a barn that had a 10-acre yard. There was chemicals all around, but it wasn't the immediate surroundings on the property where the bees were. So there's a lot of contributing factors to this, and as we see the increase in the chemicals in the environment, not only through agriculture, but through like the chemtrails, if you will, or geoengineering practices, those are some of the two main contributors, in my opinion.
Can we take just a second here? I'd love to get back to the bees, but we have a call from area code 314 from Ray for Drake. Can we take that call? Hello?
Sure. Yes.
Ray, you're on.
Yes. Okay, thank you. First off, I just want to thank you, Drake and Freedom Reigns, for everything you're doing. We really appreciate this, that we can get our country back. I had a question for you, Drake, regarding the interview with David Wilcock. You had mentioned about the currencies across the world were going to probably recalculate, reevaluate, however you want to put it. Do you think that's going to happen right along with this at the same time, or before, or after, or how do you think that's going to play out?
Well, basically, the basis of this is that it's going to be started to be implemented at the same time the plan starts taking place. And what that'll do, basically, is alleviate a lot of the problems. Now, the other problem with all of this is it don't matter how much money you got, and it don't matter how rich you are. If you don't got food to eat, you're going to be in trouble. And this is one of the reasons that Mr. Spencer's on, trying to explain that we are going to have to change our attitude and activities, or it ain't even our rebirth of our country in a year or two could be a moot point. If you don't got food to eat, I mean, you can't live on water. You got to have some kind of something. And I don't like the idea of going and chewing the bark off a tree just because I'm hungry. So yeah, I mean, you're going to have all of this stuff is planned out. It's not very, very, very few minor details have been left unattended to at this point. But I see a combination of several things. One, we got a problem in terms of structure and the manner in which the idea of the bad guys wants to go. We're fighting against this in as many ways as is possible, but you also have to remember that we've pretty much took a giant dump in our nest. We live on this planet, and we need to start fixing it. I know a lot of people don't like the idea of ecology, but everybody does seem to think that you get supplements or you get this or you get that and it makes up a difference. Well, it does. The reason you got to take those is because of the lack of food value in the plants you're getting. And the reason you got that is because everything's over-farmed, and if you don't have honeybees to pollinate it, you ain't going to have apples and oranges. Just that simple.
I totally agree with you, and I'm all plugged into all that information. I am in the process right now of doing starting somewhat of a foundation and doing acres of greenhouses where we could do hydroponic organic food and kind of eventually start to grow and force the standards with the grocery stores to make them not only drop their prices but improve the quality of their foods.
You might leave the door open so the honeybees can get in and out.
Exactly. We'll be able to pull the sides up, and I plan on having. I've already got in contact with the Bee Association here in Missouri, and plan on having them come and have our own hives here, so that we won't have to worry about the pollination. Hopefully, but I know that there's so many different, with the chemtrails and all the other chemicals. We need to, start to turn this thing around.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's